South Park angering A-list celebrities, lawsuits being threatened against the show, international news coverage, critical acclaim, Kenny actually doing something? What year is it, 2010? Nope, it's the year 2023, and somehow after a decade of declining interest in the show, South Park has risen from the dead and re-established itself as a mainstay in American popular culture. If you've been on the internet at all in the last 3 months, you probably have noticed. It seems like you can't go anywhere without hearing about the show. Whether it's trending on Twitter, on the front page of Reddit, or you can't stop watching clips on TikTok, it seems like there is no escaping it. If you look at the Google search trends for South Park, you begin to understand just how popular the show is right now. There are more searches for the show in the last month than at almost any other point in the last 20 years, with the one exception being April of 2010, which was when the show was targeted and threatened by Muslim extremists. I also made a whole video about that if you want to learn more. Anyways, you can even take my channel for example. It took me all of last year to go from 1,000 subs to 100,000. But in the last 2 months alone, I gained over 60,000 subs, thanks to the fact that I'm essentially a South Park channel at this point. Damn, I've really gained that many subscribers? Wait, I'm at 200K. I didn't even realize. Okay, I don't have anything planned right now, but I will have something in the future, so stay tuned for that. But for now, thank you guys so much for 200K. You are all awesome, and I love your support. Thank you. And you know, I think we can all learn a very important lesson from the growth of my channel. The lesson here, kids, is that if you want to be successful, you have to get lucky. If you're an unlucky person, you should give up on your dreams right now. There's just no point. Speaking of getting lucky, you guys might be wondering where exactly I've been. I mean, it's been a month since I've uploaded, and normally my upload schedule is just so consistent. I know it must be shocking, so I didn't even get to make videos on the last 2 episodes of the new season. How are you guys supposed to form an opinion without my incredible ability to dissect and analyze episodes critically? Pretty forgettable, kind of funny, but not that funny. That's about it. Well, rest assured, I will be giving my opinions in this video, so stick around for that, or you can just skip to it right now if you want to, but I recommend you stick around. But to answer your question, I've been super busy with a lot of really important stuff. Like developing an addiction to gambling Counter-Strike skins.
I think you're gonna oh my god! Track. Skip.
Oh my god! Oh my god! So cute ass doing the night. Hey! Oh!
Oh my god! He got it! He said dip.
Oh my god!
Are you
Holy
kidding?
Oh god!
Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh
Nice. Oh my god! Nice!
Wow.
Nice!
Outside. Oh, that's like a $2,000.
Yes!
Now you're probably thinking that me talking about this was just an excuse to call my gambling a business expense and write it off on my taxes. Well, to that I say, no. I mean, it's not. So, yeah. What was this video about again? Oh, South Park, got it. So it's obvious that the show is as popular as ever, but it begs the question, why now? I don't think there's ever been a show that has experienced this kind of success so late into their run. I mean, there aren't many shows that have lasted as long as this one to begin with. So how did they do it? Well, the answer to that question is complicated, as there are many contributing factors. One of the most important factors is how they were able to tap into a new market, a group of people who have never seen the show, but whose sense of humor aligned with the show well. Kids. And where is there the largest concentration of kids on the entire internet? Well, I think you know the answer to that question. Alright, enough of the dramatic music. Now at this point, I shouldn't have to explain what TikTok is to anyone, but for those that are somehow unfamiliar, let the cool, hip Gen Z kid explain it. You already know I got that unspoken riz. It's bussin' on God, for real, for real. That one hurt. So TikTok is a Chinese spyware that's disguised as a social media platform. Interestingly, the US is actually trying to ban it so that it can be replaced with an honest, hardworking American spyware. On the app, you can upload all kinds of quality content, from classic cat videos to tutorials on growing illicit substances to thirst traps by teenagers to whatever this is. Now don't get me wrong, there are some incredibly original and interesting creators on the app. My personal favorite is this dude who walks around barefoot at night in the Florida Everglades, absolutely terrorizing the wildlife. However, on TikTok, being original is hard and not all that rewarding. It is far easier to grow on TikTok by using one simple method: stealing. Back in the day, I actually made a whole other video about this topic. Yes, I did actually make a whole video about something other than South Park. I actually made a few back in the day. Go ahead, pick up your jaw. I'll wait. So it all started near the end of last year, when clips of Family Guy began to go viral on TikTok. Because of how it's written, it was the perfect show to take clips from, since you don't need any context to laugh at that time that Peter became the ruler of Uruguay with Stevie Nicks, or something, I don't know, I've only watched a few episodes. But as we all know, short-form content like TikTok has absolutely destroyed our attention spans, and just watching a Family Guy clip gets boring after like 3 seconds. So to make sure that people continued to watch, all the Family Guy clips would take up half the screen, while the other half of the screen played a video of someone playing a mobile game, or cutting soap, or mixing paint, or really anything mildly stimulating to make sure our brains aren't deprived of dopamine for more than 3 seconds. This format was incredibly successful, and Family Guy had more eyes on it than ever before. Naturally, as time went on, the Family Guy clips began to fade, and the format was applied to other shows. There were periods of Rick and Morty, Regular Show, and many others, until the format inevitably landed on South Park. When the Family Guy craze was happening, I assumed that South Park wouldn't go viral in this format since the jokes are a lot more reliant on the context from the rest of the episode. Well, as it turns out, I was completely wrong about that, because South Park clips skyrocketed to a level of popularity even Family Guy couldn't reach. Pretty soon, every third video on my For You page was a South Park clip, and I estimate about 75% of the time it was that same clip from the movie where they're arguing with Mr. Garrison about swearing. Like, I get that it's a funny clip, but I swear to God, if I have to hear Cartman ask Mr. Garrison to suck his balls while I watch someone poorly play that knife game one more time, I'm going to lose it. The sheer amount of South Park clips that went viral on TikTok meant a ton of people being exposed to the show that may not have been exposed otherwise, leading to a massive increase in interest in the show. However, TikTok was not the only reason for the massive increase in popularity. While Family Guy saw a massive increase in popularity as well, their TikTok trend never saw quite the same level of success as South Park's. This is because South Park had a few things that Family Guy did not. Most importantly, their show has value outside of short clips. Not to say that Family Guy has no value as a show, but in general, you're not going to get much more out of the show by watching full episodes compared to watching clips on TikTok. Because South Park is a lot more story-driven, the jokes are generally funnier if you know the context of the episodes and characters. Another major factor is that, thanks to some convenient timing, these clips just happen to start going viral right before the release of the new season. And even more conveniently, this new season would prove to be some of the best South Park we've seen in years.
What the f*** is this?
So not only did South Park release a new season right as they began their TikTok ascent, but this new season was able to do something that the show hasn't been able to do in years. It felt like old South Park. As I've mentioned, for the last few years, South Park has struggled to recapture the feeling of the golden age. It always felt like the show was missing something, like Matt and Trey had overlooked some small aspects of the show that gave it its charm. Even episodes where they would make clear attempts to return to their old style still felt like they were missing something. That's how I felt about the previous season, season 25. Many of the episodes clearly made a conscious effort to return to the older style of the show, with more simple plots and less focus on whatever was in the news. But even these attempts couldn't capture that feeling. It was a culmination of the little things adding up, whether it was character voices that sounded different, much more detailed animation, or the overuse of popular music with no original music. These things together just changed the vibe of the show. With season 26, however, it seems like they were able to iron out these problems and give us a season that truly succeeded in capturing that old South Park vibe. It was funny, topical, relevant, and most importantly, controversial. As we all know, South Park loves a good controversy every now and then, and the show is at its best when it's offending celebrities and organizations regularly. They definitely succeeded this season, experiencing what is probably their biggest controversy in over 10 years. In my opinion, this season was the best in a very long time, with the only recent season that can even come close to its quality being season 19, which was 8 years ago. Now, it's important to note that this season was only 6 episodes long, as they have started making the 2-hour-long Paramount specials to go with the rest of the season. In this case, I think that the shorter season might have actually helped solidify it as a great season, since it felt like they started to run out of steam at the end. Speaking of the end, I still haven't reviewed the last 2 episodes of the season because... well, you know why. So let's go through the season and take a look back at all these episodes and how I feel about them. I'll start with the last 2 and go a bit more in depth with them, then I'll do a shorter recap about the other 4 and give you some updates on my opinion of the episodes, as well as some updates on the chaos that ensued following these episodes. So to start off, who's hungry for some DikinBaus? This was a fun one. It did a great job of capturing that old South Park feeling with a new South Park spin. It's a Cartman and Butters episode, which is a dynamic that is almost always hilarious, so it was bound to be a good one. Wait a minute, is that Kenny? He's actually doing something? Oh my god, it's a miracle, Kenny's doing something. He has a role! Oh, praise the Lord. I never thought I would see the day. So this episode follows Cartman as he decides to get a job at an ice cream parlor alongside Butters. Of course, he doesn't actually do any work, instead he just makes excuse after excuse, pointing to his mental health as being the reason. There's a ton of jokes in here poking fun at the younger generation and their more self-focused attitude, as Cartman takes advantage of these habits to avoid doing work in any form, and it made for some of the funnier lines from Cartman in this episode.
I'm actually taking a mental health day. Yeah, young people can just ask for a mental health day and employers can't deny them. It's my mental health day.
Cartman very quickly becomes tired of working for someone else. Is that what he called it? Working? Alright. So he decides to open up his own hot dog stand. And, in a stroke of luck, Cartman just so happens to be living in an old hot dog stand. He gets Kenny to work with him and they begin their plan. First, they need funding, so Cartman does what Cartman does and manipulates Butters into providing all the funding. Hey look, it's that guy.
And it's gone.
And they even showed Kenny without a hood on? Jeez, what is going on? Side tangent, but you know what's funny about this is apparently this became kind of a news story as well, as I saw it posted on those giant Instagram news accounts, although they kind of made it sound like it was the first time his face had ever been revealed, so I don't know, but weirdly enough, my dad texted me out of the blue and asked if they showed Kenny's face with no other context. I have no clue where he heard this news, but he doesn't use social media, so it must have been from some news outlet. I just thought that was funny. Anyways. As the episode continues and they realize the difficulty in opening a restaurant, it becomes pretty clear that this is paralleling real life. If you follow the actions of Matt and Trey at all, you probably know that they purchased the legendary Colorado Mexican restaurant Casa Bonita a couple of years ago. The restaurant is a major part of South Park history, being Cartman's favorite restaurant, and Matt and Trey wanted to revive it after it couldn't afford to stay open during COVID. Their struggles are well represented through this episode, as Kenny and Cartman struggle to hire people to work and end up spending a lot more than they thought they would. They give the restaurant the brilliant name of DikinBaus Hot Dogs, and honestly, I can't think of anything more classic South Park than having the focus of the episode be a dick joke. When the restaurant finally opens, Butters runs the whole thing himself and is able to make all of his money back that he gave to Cartman. Butters decides he doesn't want to be involved anymore, and in a rare moment, we see Cartman suffer the consequences of his actions by being forced to move out of the hot dog and back into his old house. It's pretty hilarious that he spent the last 2 seasons complaining about living in a hot dog, despite the fact that it's his fault they're in there in the first place, and then when he finally has a reason to like the hot dog, it is immediately ripped away from him. This episode was a definite highlight from the season. I would go as far as to say that it might have been my favorite from the whole season. I don't know, it's pretty close, but this might have edged out Cupid Ye. I think right now I'll put it 1 spot above that episode in the 75th spot, but I could see it going either way. Now with that out of the way, let's move on to the final episode. An episode that gives us a look into the potential direction that the show is heading. A return to the Dark Ages. I think out of all the episodes in this season, this one definitely felt the most like a typical modern South Park episode. That's not necessarily a bad thing on its own, because there are plenty of great modern South Park episodes, but it just didn't capture that South Park charm in the same way that the others did. It follows Mr. Garrison and his boyfriend Rick as they go on vacation for Garrison's spring break. Garrison really went all out, booking them 5 nights in one of the most luxurious cities in the United States.
We're gonna spend 5 nights in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
Oh.
I just got one question for all my haters at home. Where am I? And where are you? I'm in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I'm at 81 degrees there. Pacific.
Rick begins to question Garrison, noting that Myrtle Beach is known for a specific activity. He doesn't say what exactly he's referring to, but anyone who's familiar with the area can tell you that it's pretty well known for its hardcore partying. There's a side plot involving the Marshes, as Sharon and Shelly go to Santa Fe for the week, leaving Randy and Stan alone. Randy just wants to party like a frat dude, while Stan just wants to play Warhammer with Tolkien. The whole plot is basically just Randy discussing how society has made it impossible for boys to be boys and convinced them that they should be ashamed of it, while simultaneously acting like a pig around women. I thought it was pretty funny and a bit on the nose, as Randy's messages and ideas are pretty similar to a certain retired Romanian kickboxer and alleged human trafficker.
No matter what the liberals try to tell you, boys, you shouldn't be ashamed of your gender.
Again, it was a decently funny plotline, but wait. Oh, that's the guy. How funny and relevant. That's the guy that they were talking about. They put him in the show. Wow, that's good stuff. Okay, in all seriousness, why even include him in the episode? Why would you make Randy seem like a representation of him just to have the actual guy appear? Like, he doesn't actually do anything, he just threatens Randy when he gets too aggressive and gets arrested at the end. It was essentially just a cameo, and it really felt like they were like, hey, look everyone, it's the guy. That's the guy we were talking about, he does the thing. It's kind of like if they had just put Kanye in the Cupid Ye episode out of nowhere, but he didn't actually have any of his character traits, he was just there to be there. I don't know, it just felt unnecessary to me. Tangent aside, this plotline was decently funny, but it was just average in my opinion. Back to Garrison, they arrive in Myrtle Beach, and we understand what Rick actually meant when we see a MAGA store. They make it seem like some kind of club, with Garrison constantly itching to go inside and rally. It's pretty funny to treat Garrison's presidential tendencies and rallying like partying, with his fans always asking him to rally despite his efforts to avoid that lifestyle. It works even better because rallying is an actual term used by people who party, so it just seems like it fits almost too well. As the episode continues, Garrison's will slowly weakens until he inevitably gives in and rallies. They make it clear just how upset Rick is by this, and it's pretty sad honestly. The plot continues like this as Garrison falls deeper and deeper into his degeneracy, while Rick keeps giving him second chances. It just gets worse though, with Garrison becoming so addicted that even a trip to the bathroom becomes an opportunity to rally, as the guy in the other stall hilariously gives him the foot tap to let him know what's up. Rick finds them and is completely fed up, leaving Garrison for good. While one of his rallies plays on the TV, Rick watches as Garrison sends out a heartfelt apology directly to him, discussing how much he needs Rick since he can't stand the person he is without him. This was surprisingly emotional, and it really humanized Mr. Garrison, which is a rarity for his character. Randy also sees his speech after his wild partying and realizes that he needs Sharon, very loosely tying together the two plots in a way that felt a little bit contrived, but it's whatever. Hey, that's the dude from the PC frat. In the end, Rick and Garrison end up back together, and it's a pretty sweet ending. All around, I would say this episode was decent. I liked the Garrison plot and thought it was funny. The Randy stuff was just meh, and they didn't really tie them together very well, but seeing more presidential Garrison stuff does make me a bit nervous for the future of his character, because I really don't know how much more President Garrison stuff I can take at this point. It was probably the worst episode of the season in my opinion, but that doesn't make it a bad episode by any means. It was still solid, and I think I'll put it in the upper B tier at the 171st spot.
It's okay, Randy, we're back.
I'm sorry. I cut your trip short.
It's okay, Randy, you made it longer than last spring break.
So with almost 2 months since the release of this episode, I can say confidently that it is still easily one of my favorites from the season. As I learned from the comments on that video, this episode was spot on in showing how these messages can spread. The amount of people that agree with Kanye's messages is far greater than I had first suspected, and it's interesting to see the parallels between the episode and real life when it comes to these messages spreading through exposure. It's honestly kind of scary to see just how many people will believe what one dude has to say because he's famous, especially when the evidence is all so easily debunked, something that they literally did in this episode. Yet despite that, I still saw literally hundreds of comments using the same evidence to try to say that Ye was right. Like, did you guys just miss that entire part of the video? Did you choose to ignore it? Like, what's up with that? Well, on the bright side, since the release of this episode, Kanye has officially stated that he once again likes Jewish people. So what's with the sudden change of heart? Well, the theatrical masterpiece that is 21 Jump Street, starring the Jewish actor Jonah Hill. This is kind of how I pictured that unfolding.
My name is Jeff.
Oh my god. His name Jeff. That is the funniest thing I've ever seen. Man, I need to stop spreading all this hate. It's time for love.
Also, a note to any future time travelers, I know of a dude from the 30s that you may want to show this movie to. But yeah, this episode is still just as funny as it was when it came out, and it will remain in the A tier at the 76th spot.
I think this kid should run Hollywood. Yeah!
When this one first released, I knew it was going to be controversial, but I definitely didn't expect it to garner as much attention as it did. This was quite literally international news, as this episode was praised for its accuracy and biting commentary on the affairs of the royal family. When I was researching for the video, the amount of news publications talking about this episode was more than I had ever seen for a new South Park episode. The news coverage just continued to grow, as Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, who apparently attended the Tom Cruise and Jennifer Lopez school of reacting to your South Park parody, were reported to be, quote, upset and overwhelmed by the episode while refusing to watch it. And of course, it wouldn't be a true South Park controversy without threats of legal action, and they made sure to check off that box as well. You know, you would think that in the year 2023, with 26 years worth of bad celebrity reactions, celebrities would know how to react to their South Park parody by now. But of course, the people whose only value in life revolves around their public image wouldn't be able to handle being the butt of the joke. They couldn't just, brush it off and show that you can take a joke, therefore not drawing any more attention to it and shutting down some of the points being made in the episode. But no, when your self-worth lies in what other people think about you, your ego can grow so large that you think you can swing the public opinion in your favor. And what's the easiest way to get the public back on your side? You need to talk about how hurt you were. Use words like upset and overwhelmed to really pull on the heartstrings of those who feel bad for you. That's right. You need to be a victim. Sound familiar?
Sorority girl, actress, influencer, victim.
Yeah, that's totally me.
So yeah, I don't have a lot to say about the actual episode, just that it aged absolutely flawlessly since Harry and Meghan's actions just proved literally every single point they made in the episode. It's funny because someone like me, who knew nothing about this situation prior to the episode, still felt pretty indifferent towards the couple after they made fun of them. I thought it was funny, but I still didn't really have any feelings towards the couple themselves. But after seeing their desperate attempt at garnering sympathy and inability to take a joke, I can confidently say that I do not like them. So good job, Harry and Meghan. In your attempts at trying to make everyone like you, you managed to ensure that no one likes you. But yeah, this episode is still awesome, and it's gonna stay at 103. Yeah, I don't really have much to say about this one. It's still just a solid episode. Randy's flexing of his new expensive toilet is still pretty hilarious, and the sudden shift into a takedown of the toilet paper industry is something that I never would have expected, but I found it to be surprisingly interesting and informative. Having Jimmy be the one to explain it all to Stan was a smart move too, since we know that he's a journalist with a lot of integrity. The ending where Randy essentially admits that all he cared about was flexing as soon as Stan commits to the cause is the perfect way to wrap up the episode, and it really ended up ticking all of the boxes for what makes a solid Randy episode. All around, another great episode, and my ranking remains the same in the B tier at the 164th spot.
Bro, I got shot.
Finally, we have the episode that they stole from me. Nah, I'm just kidding. But this was their episode talking about AI and ChatGPT. It was another pretty hilarious episode, and I thought the ending where they wrote the entire thing with ChatGPT was the perfect way to wrap up the story, and watching Stan dig himself deeper and deeper into a lie was pretty funny too. And of course, it's appropriate that Cartman was kind of the mastermind behind all of it, just trying to cheat on his school assignments without getting caught. Since the release of this episode, AI has only gotten more advanced, with the new trend being AI music. People are writing songs and using AI-generated voices of artists to sing and rap the song. You've probably heard about this song that used AI generations of Drake and The Weeknd. It went insanely viral, and in my opinion, it is unironically better than anything Drake has released in a very long time.
I came in with my ex like Selena, the flex, bumping Justin Bieber, the fever and left,
This has inspired a ton of people to do the same thing, and I've already seen countless songs that are using this same technology. It really makes you wonder what the future holds for not only music, but any form of art. At what point is AI going to be better than us at these things? I mean, I wouldn't personally know since, as you all know, I'm entirely real and definitely not an AI. But yeah, another good episode, and it's going to hold its spot in the B tier at 150.
You pull all that off. ChatGPT, dude.
To summarize, South Park has seen more success in the last 2 months than it has in 20 years. It's honestly one of the most insane stories I've ever heard. For a show to hit a second peak like this 26 years after it was released is unheard of, and I find it unlikely that something like this will happen again anytime soon, if ever. Its newfound success is thanks to so many factors, like the TikTok algorithm, a massive amount of kids discovering the show for the first time, major controversy, and most importantly, the fact that all of this happened at the same time as the airing of the best season in years. It was really just the perfect storm of events lining up with one another, and that is why we have entered the South Park Renaissance. But you know, the more I think about it, the more it feels like we're missing something. Like there's a factor that we haven't accounted for that's been working behind the scenes. I don't know. Let me just Oh my God. Him.